Hello, everybody. How are we this evening?
Hello,
Hi,
teacher.
teacher.
Hello.
Hi. Hi,
Hello,
teacher
teacher.
Michael.
Hello,
Hi,
teacher
teacher
Michael.
Michael. Hi, teacher Michael.
Hello.
How
So,
are you today?
again, thank you all for submitting your homework. You're all doing fantastic.
How
So
are you
far. It's
doing
really
today?
terrific to see. I'm very well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm well too.
Very good. So this week, our topic is body language, body language and hand gestures in public speaking. So I'll share my
Teacher.
screen. Yes.
What hat? Why do you wear that hat? Does it mean something?
No, it's just very cold over here in Melbourne, so I like to wear the hat to keep my head warm.
Because student beg you to wear your hat.
Cold
It
again.
can
I thought you said
it can be very
on the
cold.
Zoom. It can last time on the Zoom you say the words it's getting very hot.
It looks like
It is
low
during the day,
temperature.
but it's still very cold at night time.
Teacher,
It does get quite warm during the day, but it still gets quite hot, quite cold at night time.
teacher, do you use
Yes.
a normal computer like people always use to work or a gaming laptop? Teacher uses MSI.
I'm using a gaming laptop. This is
Really?
Yep, I bought a gaming laptop because it's I find it works quicker for what I want to use it for. Okay, so let's begin. So this week we're going to be we're up to lesson 3, as we said before, body language in public speaking. And the title says Mastering the Art of Nonverbal Communication, but this is more like an introduction to nonverbal communication. So welcome back to another hopefully engaging lesson. Last week we explored and analyzed historical speeches and effective speaking techniques. So all of your reflections and your no, I'm not playing Postal on a share screen, Andrew. So yeah, in our last lesson we watched speeches and we analyzed them. We were looking for the content of the speech, their body language, their vocal modulation, so just all these different things. But this week we're going to go into a bit more detail with the nonverbal aspects of speaking. So again, body language, facial expressions we'll be doing a little bit of, and we'll also be doing hand gestures as well. So things we can do with our hands to really effectively convey our message to our audience.
Teacher,
So the objectives of this lesson tonight, yes.
how old are you? How old are you?
We can discuss personal things later. Let's get on to the lesson.
Hello,
We can
teacher.
discuss personal things later.
It's not good to ask an old person about
Hello,
the
everyone, silence, please. Enough,
I
let's
think
get
you
on
knew
with our
everyone,
lesson.
okay? Because
So,
for
the
those,
3
please.
objectives of today's being a co-host, I get to unmute, love it. So the 3 objectives of today's class are understanding the importance of body language. We're going to be practicing some good posture and practicing some eye contact. And we're going to learn to use some gestures effectively. Now, obviously, we've got roughly an hour for this class, so we're not going to be able to get very in-depth with the topic, but hopefully we cover a good basic introduction. And then I'll leave it up to you guys to do your own research, do your own study, and yeah, so I'll leave you guys to do your own research, do your own study on the topic. It's fascinating. I've been reading up on it a bit today for this evening's class. So, non-verbal communication. So the first thing we'll do is let's discuss the significance of body language in communication. And we're going to look at a few images that depict body language cues. So I did originally plan to just have a whole heap of slides with all of these different body language cues on them, but I decided to go a different way. I'm going to be a little bit of a guinea pig, as it were. So any of the body language cues that I couldn't find good pictures for, I will discuss, I'll demonstrate rather for you on camera. So the other thing that we want to talk about is discussing how body language amplifies a message. So we'll do a little bit of exploration on how body language can enhance or alter the impact of words that we speak. So the first thing that we want to discuss, this one's not so much body language as it is about presentation, but I still thought it was very interesting. So the first one is don't have messy hair. It can be seen as a sign of poor health or mental illness. So we see there, though he is overdoing it a little bit, we can see that he looks kind of crazy with his scraggly hair and his facial expression. The next part of this is that your hair is seen as it's almost like an unofficial resume. People will assume things about you based on how you present your hair. So if we have a look at the gentleman in the bottom picture, we see there he looks a lot more put together than the guy in the top picture. So he looks like quite a serious guy. He looks like he's here to do some serious business, whereas the guy at the top kind of almost looks like a joke a little bit. But well-kept hair can actually let people know things like your rank in a hierarchy. So are you important? Are you like the boss, or are you close to the boss? Or are you more towards the bottom of the hierarchy? Are you just someone that's there to help everyone else? So yes, keeping your hair in good condition and styling it well, that can give people the impression that you're an important person. The next thing I would like to show you, picture of some crazy eyes. So the reason I chose this photo is because it has both, a diluted and a constricted pupil to show you. Now your eyes, it's very involuntary. So that means that it's not something that you can control, but it's how you react to certain stimuli. So is there a loud noise all of a sudden? Are people not listening to you? Are they listening very well? Does that make you happy, sad, or upset, or angry? So all of these different factors can have an impact on what happens with your eyes while you're giving a speech. So the first thing is, when you're stressed about something, the pupil of your eyes will constrict or get smaller, like the eye on the left. So we see that pupil is a lot smaller. So that will happen to you if you're feeling quite stressed about something, or you're getting angry about something. But if you're calm, relaxed, and focused, your pupils will dilate, and that means they will get bigger. So as we see the difference in the right eye, that pupil is a lot bigger. And another interesting thing about your eyes during a public speech is that if you're getting stressed and getting nervous, then the muscles around your eyes will actually start to contract and get quite stiff, and you might get a few tics or something like that. But if you're relaxed, then your eyes will just be nice, wide open, and normal looking. So basically, if you're relaxed, people won't be able to tell anything's up based on looking at your eyes. The next thing that we'll discuss is playing with your hair. Now, this can be a sign of nervousness or stress. So I'm going to take my hat off for just 1 second. So this is a public speaking cue for both girls and boys, both ladies and men. And so playing with your hair, or trying to remember what it's called, ventilating your hair. So playing with your hair or ventilating your hair is a sign of stress. So men tend to do it more on top. So if you see a man that's giving a public speech, or he's just talking to people, and you see he's playing with his hair like this at the top a lot, that can be a sign that he's feeling stressed or nervous. So try and avoid that, and people won't think that of you. Whereas with girls and ladies, because your hair tends to be longer at the back and more heavier at the back, ladies will tend to play with, they'll tend to vent their hair from the back more. And so if you see somebody that's giving a speech or talking to a big group of people, you'll notice, you'll be able to tell if they're feeling nervous or stressed. One of the signs is whether they're playing with their hair. So that's something to avoid. Even if your hair is, even if it's getting in your face or anything, just first of all, going back to hairstyles, probably should have kept it back. But if your hair's getting in your face, just try and adjust it as quickly as possible. Get back to your speech. Don't stand there trying to play with it lots. I've got a whole list here of things. So I'm going to go through them one by one. So one of the important things is eye contact. That is true, Michael, but we're specifically talking about public speaking or addressing a large group of people. So I just got a message, an interesting message that said, if a girl is playing with her hair, and while she's talking to you, that means that she likes you. Yes, that is true, but those same body language cues can sometimes change based on a different situation or a different location you find yourself in. So if you're talking one-on-one, a girl sitting there playing with her hair and running it through her fingers and stuff, yes, that can mean that she's showing interest in you. But if that same woman is addressing a large group of people and she's playing with her hair lots and venting her hair to let the excess heat out, that can completely change the definition of what the body language is doing. But as we were talking before, eye contact is a very important part of public speech. So the worst thing a public speaker can do is not look at their audience. So right now, I'm looking into the camera, as you can see. And as I'm talking, it might start to give you the feeling that I'm talking specifically to you because you can see me on camera. But if I was just to kind of look up here while I'm talking and, oh yeah, I've got an air conditioner and a painting on the wall there, and look out the window, and you might get the impression that I don't really care about talking to you. You might get the feeling that I'd rather be doing anything else. So eye contact can add a very personal, it can add a very personal touch to a speech. And a very good tip with that is if you are looking, sorry, got mumbled in my words there. So the good thing is that say you're talking to a huge audience of people, let's say there's like 500 people out in the audience, and I might look, say, over here. Now, truth be told, with the lights that are on me and the fact that there's so many people, I could be looking at, say, 15, 20, 30, a block of 20 to 30 people over here. But each one of them is going to think he's looking at me when he says that. So he's saying that to me. And it can add a very personal touch. It can get people to really, really feel and agree with what you're saying. Yes, very good, Tina. If you get mumbles or hesitations, it can be a sign of nervousness, but it can also be a sign of, well, mumbles, yes, nervousness, but hesitations can also be the person is just trying to put the words together in their head, because some speeches, yes, you'll have it fully written out. You'll just be able to look down and read off it, look back at your audience. But sometimes if you're giving an impromptu speech, which this one is, I am like, I've got my dot points on the slides here, but I'm going off of what I know off my head. So sometimes I just need to, sometimes I just need a couple of extra seconds to think about what it is I'm trying to say. Yes, scratching their hands or their feet. I've never seen anybody scratch their feet in a public speech before. But yes, so sometimes someone says scratch their hands or like this, or scratch their face. Sometimes it can just be genuinely that they've got an itch and they just need to scratch it and they're good. Or yeah, sometimes if they're really kind of going back to that same point and speaking, then yeah, that can be a sign of nerves. I've never seen anyone scratch their feet before in a public speech. Yes. Let's have a look at this next message. So yeah, scratching your hand, scratching your arm, scratching your face. It can be very much a protective mechanism. You're feeling nervous, and the way you get rid of that nervous energy is just to scratch. And that can be a sign that they are very stressed. Yes, Ruby, correct. I've never seen anybody in a public speech pick their nose, Andrew. I've seen a few people maybe scratch their nose. I've never seen anyone with a finger just up there and rifling around. Don't worry, I'm not actually picking my nose. Very good. Min sent in an interesting message. What about when people blink really fast? It happens to me and my friends when we're giving a speech. So let me have a quick, I'll get you an actual answer for this. Blink rate. So what Min is talking about when he's asked about blinking really fast, that's called your blink rate, or the rate at the speed at which you blink your eyes. So a blink rate can vary depending on environment and the amount of stress or arousal a person is experiencing. Each individual is different, but a typical rate is between 16 to 20 blinks per minute, depending on lighting conditions and humidity. So if it's a really, if there's a lot of moisture in the air or there's lots of bright lights in your face, you could tend to blink your eyes a little bit more. Rather, if there's less humidity in the air and there's bright lights, you could blink a little more because your eyes get drier. People looking at computers tend to blink less, many of whom complain of dry eyes or eye infections. While those who work where there is dust or pollen will blink more. Also, be aware that wearing contact lenses can increase how often we blink. When we're around someone who excites us, our blink rate also tends to increase. So yeah, I would say based on that description, if there's bright lights or it's a very dry environment you're speaking in, you'll blink more. Can also be a sign of nerves based on whether you like the person that you're speaking to or not. Their hands can sweat. Same thing, Emma, with scratching your ear as well. That can be a sign of nervousness. Luna, how am I making you itch? That's a very confusing comment. Talking too fast can be a sign of nerves, yes. So if I'm starting to get really nervous and not really sure about what I'm talking about, and I'm getting really nervous and oh my gosh, I might start to speak a bit quicker because I just want to get it over with and then get out of there. But also, if I speak really slowly, that could also be considered nerves because I'm being really careful with what I'm trying to say so I don't say the wrong thing. But if you're varying your speeds throughout the speech, so let's say if you're listing off important things, so if I was going to say, I found some of my clothes in the bathroom, in my bedroom. I even found some on the staircase. So you see, as I'm listing things off, I'm getting a bit slower with the actual places where I found my clothes. But all of the words in between that were a little bit quicker. So I was, in that instance, part of that was quite fast, part of that was quite slow. But I was using those changes of speed to let you know what the important parts of that sentence were. Ben, yeah, kind of. If people are sweating, it means they're nervous. Sometimes, yes. Other times, if they're giving a big speech and there's really bright lights above the stage, those bright lights can be crazy hot. And the amount of heat that they send down to the stage, down to the speaker, that can be enough to make you sweat as well. So sweating isn't always caused by nerves. People can cough. So people can cough for a few reasons, Tom. I think the biggest two, let me have a look, see if I can find an answer for you. Oh, coughing. Can't find an exact, actually. Oh, okay. So coughing actually has two different we say uses or considerations in body language. One of them is called a filler sound. So when you hear somebody talking and they might just for a moment be at a loss for words, or they may need to think about what they're saying, they may choose to fill that time in with something called a filler sound, which is things like or they might cough, or they might clear their throat. So they might make those not that actually caused a real cough. So those filler sounds those filler sounds are usually just used to fill in time. So if a lot of people don't like silence. So if they can't think of anything to say, they'll just make a noise to fill in the silence so that people don't feel awkward. It's a particularly American thing. It's a particularly American thing to do, is using filler sounds. And the other use for coughing is people will tend to cough or clear their throats when they have to answer a difficult question, or they need to deal with something that they find difficult. So if a question is challenging, or the answer needs to be qualified, so if they really need to know what they're talking about and they get a bit nervous, they might just to give themselves again a little bit extra time to think about their answer. Laughing, Alice. So laughing is just, everybody knows that when you're feeling happy or you're amused, you laugh. So laughing, where is it here? So laughing is people might laugh when a joke has been told, or they might, what is it? Lost my train of thought there, but filler sound. So with the laughter, sometimes the speaker that makes the joke might laugh with the audience while they're laughing. That doesn't necessarily mean anything negative. Laughter overall, laughter overall tends to be a positive thing to do. But if you're ever in doubt, if you're ever in doubt, just make sure that you, what am I trying to say? Make sure that you judge the laugh to see if it's real or not. That's obviously a skill you'll need to develop, but yeah. So when someone laughs, you can usually tell if it's a fake laugh or a real laugh. And if it's a real laugh, usually great. That means they're being genuine, they're enjoying themselves. But sometimes if they laugh at something that they don't think is actually funny, and you can tell it's a fake laugh, then that's where people tend to get a bit suspicious. Okay. Andrew, someone might think that you're a bit stressed if you haven't been blinking your eyes since the lesson started. Okay. Guangni, good point. Saying or ah can be a sign of nervousness. Not necessarily. The ums or the ahs, or what we call filler sounds, they tend to be more of a byproduct of being nervous. So people don't, well, Actually, no, sorry. I'll rephrase that. The filler sounds are more of a sign that somebody doesn't know what they're going to say next, or perhaps they don't fully believe in what they're going to say next, or they don't believe in themselves to say it. That tends to be more of an issue of either shyness or, yeah, just not knowing what they want to say. But that in itself can be a sign of nervousness. And although that is a very small difference, it's a very important difference. Stammering and stuttering. Let's have a look, Miss Luna. So some people can stammer or stutter naturally. Like when I was a kid, I went through, it was quite strange. I went through phases of about, usually be about 2 to 3 weeks tops at a time, but I just developed this absolutely horrendous stutter. And I couldn't stop myself. No matter how hard I tried, I would just stutter. And then it'd go away for months and months and months, and then it'd randomly come back. But during that time, I couldn't help it. But other than that, and a lot of people are like that, but permanently, they will just have a stutter they cannot control and that they cannot get rid of. But for people who don't normally stutter, a high degree of stress or anxiety can cause us to temporarily stutter or stammer. Andrew, I saw your comment there. They can wear a hat like Mr. Michael. That's only when I can't be bothered to brush my hair. Oh, I can't be bothered to put product in and style it because I just washed it today and I want it to stay nice and shiny for a day before I put stuff in it. That is true, Ben. If you have a lot of people that are watching you speak, then you can get quite nervous or stressed, and you can maybe forget your speech or the next line you were going to say. Min, so we've talked about the filler noises. They tend to occur when people need a moment to think about what they want to say next, but they don't want there to be silence in between the lines that they're saying. So for example, if I was to get nervous or anxious about silence, I might make these noises if I need some time to think about what I want to say next, but I want to fill the silence. It is a sign of nervousness. So if you do momentarily forget what you're going to say and you need a few seconds, there's nothing wrong with just letting the silence be. And smiles, good question as well, Min. So there are 2 types of smiles. Ooh, hiccup. So there are 2 types of smiles. The first type of smile is a real one, and the second type of smile is a fake one. So if someone's genuinely happy and genuinely smiling, then the smile will actually go up towards their eyes. So if you see, and that means that all of the muscles of the cheeks and the eyes, the whole face gets involved in a real smile. But if it's a fake smile, then it will actually tend to stretch out more towards the ears. And that means that the eyes won't be involved in it. It'll be a very deadpan kind of smile. And if someone's doing a fake smile, it stretches out towards their ears, like you see there's nothing happening in my eyes here. It's stretching out towards my ears. When you see a smile like that, that generally means that the person doing that fake smile is actually quite annoyed, but they don't want to let everybody else know that they're annoyed. So they try and hide it with the smile. They just don't do the job very well. Okay, so I've had lots of brilliant questions and asking for different explanations about body language. So that's terrific. The next thing that we want to discuss is the importance of posture. So has anybody, I would be amazed if anybody had, but has anybody heard the term, what's it called? Power poses. Has anybody heard the term power pose before? I'm getting a few messages of people saying no. So I'm not sure of much of the science behind it, but the little bit I do know about it is that for men, women can do it too, and they can actually get some very good health benefits out of it. But the one that I know about is for men. And a power pose is basically just a very confident way of standing there. So with your chest lifted, hands on your hips, almost like you're standing there like Superman, like that. If you do that and chin up, make sure you're not looking down. But if you stand there confidently like this, I think it's for something like 2 minutes to 2.5 minutes. For men, it can actually provide a considerable boost in the amount of testosterone running through their body. So it can actually make them feel stronger and make them feel better in general. And for women, there are other benefits. I just don't know enough about them to. Tom, that is a very advanced question you're asking, not one I'd be able to answer properly in this lesson. How can you tell when a person is lying? There are many different ways. Marissa, do we have to do filler sounds in our speech? No, we do not want filler sounds. We want to get comfortable with moments of silence. Exactly, Andrew. So 30 seconds of power posing can actually have quite a big impact on the speech you're about to give. So if you stand there, and I think it even works better if you look into the mirror while you do it, because you see yourself standing there looking strong. And that also has an effect on your brain and how you look at yourself. So that can actually be a very good technique to use. But I do know that it can have a positive effect on both men and women. So if ever you need a little boost and you want to feel a bit better, just lift your chest up, put your hands like fists on your hips, and stand there like that. And after a little while, usually I think it's about 1 minute to 2 minutes, something like that, you'll feel a lot better. Okay, so posture. So when we talk about good posture, what we mean is that we want a nice, not perfectly straight spine, but we want to lengthen our spine. So naturally, when we, hang on, I'm going to stand up and try to show you this. I'll come back to this PowerPoint. Okay, so natural posture tends to be quite relaxed. So sometimes people might lean forward slightly, they might lean back slightly, but as you can see, there's a very big curve in my spine here down the bottom. I'm almost leaning back a little bit. So there's a big curve in my spine. Not good for confident public speech. So I taught this to some of my debating students. I'm still waiting to see it, truth be told, in some of your debates. But so the first thing about good confident posture is how we stand. So I'm going to try and point this down here. So the first thing we want to do is make our legs as relaxed as possible. So hopefully you guys can all see this well. But as you see, from my hip, take my phone out of my pocket, but from my hip down to my knee, we want that to be a straight line. So we don't want to be sitting back like we're sitting on a bar stool, well, like we're sitting on a seat. We want to have nice and forward. So from the hip down to the knee in a straight line, and we want it to be over the front of the foot. So here. So if it's anywhere else, like back here, we'll stick our bum out, we'll look like a duck, and our legs will be locked out and will start to hurt after a while. So we want to keep our legs nice and relaxed. That's the first thing. The second thing is we want to, and this one always gets a laugh, but we want to suck our tummies in. So as you can see, I've got a bit of a belly here, and there's a bit of a curve in my spine again. So I'm going to suck my belly in, and we see here the belly's disappeared. And at the back, the curve in my spine is a lot less. So this combined with holding my knees forward over the front of my feet, this gives me, and this position as well, I should say, it'll help you in a lot of sports too. But for the purpose of public speaking, very good, Emma, yes. So why don't I see that in your debate videos when we debate in class if you know it so well? So yeah, so knees held soft, knees over the front of the foot, suck your belly in. That's gonna, it's gonna make your belly smaller for one, which is good for big bellies like mine, but it's also gonna straighten your spine a lot more, allow you to strengthen or lengthen your spine a lot more, I should say. And the next part of that is your chest. So like I said before, with the curve in your spine, if I sit side on, you'll see here that the front of my chest here is pointing straight forward. Now, what I want to do for good posture and good confidence, or a look of confidence in my public speaking, is I want to take this flat bit of my chest here and pick it up. So essentially what I've done is, if I imagine that there's a little eye in the middle of my chest looking straight forward, I want to make that eye look diagonally upward. So I don't want it to be looking forward. I want it to be looking diagonally up. So this is going to lift our chest. It's going to make us look more confident. It's going to allow us to breathe easier too. So if I just sit here and relax and I feel during my breath, because my ribs are now sitting on top of my stomach here, as I breathe, I feel it getting quite full quite too early and it becomes quite uncomfortable. But if I pick my chest up, so we see here more confidence, now I can breathe a lot easier, and my breath doesn't get stuck as much. So it has other effects other than just looking more confident. How does my voice sound funny, Emma? And the last thing is, we want our chin here. So if we put our hand underneath our chin while we're looking straight forward, we'll notice that our hand's kind of on an angle like that. So the bottom of our chin kind of goes on a diagonal. We want to lift our head until the bottom of the chin is flat to the floor. So from side on, here, you see the chin's on a slight diagonal angle there. I want to just pick it up so the chin is, underside of the chin is flat to the floor. It picks my face up, picks my eyes up, and allows me to look out at the audience a lot easier. If you need to go to the bathroom, you may go. So, excuse me. So I'm going to make this a little exercise. Well, yes, we do want to look straight into, well, good question, Diana. I'm just thinking about a proper answer for you. So we don't want to look straight into the audience's eyes, but we want to make it look like we are. So public speaking is quite a persuasive, it's quite a persuasive thing to do. So that means that we're trying to convince the audience of our ideas, or we're trying to convince them to do something. So persuasion, it's almost like playing a little bit of a trick on people, but it's okay to do so because the ideas that we want to impart are supposed to be ideas that are going to make people's lives better. So if you're trying to persuade them to do something that's bad for them, that's bad, do not do it. But if you're trying to persuade them to do something that you know is going to have a good impact on their lives, make them better, make their lives better, then it's okay to do so. But it's essentially like playing a bit of a trick on them. So I want to make it look like I'm looking into their eyes, but I can't afford to commit that much focus to actually finding someone's eyes to look into. But I want to send you guys, yeah, very good, Diana. You want to look above their heads, but again, you want to make it look like you're looking into their eyes. Now I'm going to send in the chat box the 5 points of good posture. So sorry guys, give me just 2 seconds there. So keep your knees soft and relax. Okay, so there is one point that I forgot to mention in your posture, is that when people pick up their chests to look more confident, what some people tend to do is do this with their shoulders. I'll go and pick their shoulders up. Now, all of a sudden, I've lost my neck here. I sound really funny when I talk, and it's just very uncomfortable. So when you're perfecting your posture, as you pick your chest up, allow your shoulders to hang down. So don't try to do anything with them. Just let them hang nice and loose. I was a ballroom dancer for 20 years, Ben. I know my posture very, very well. Okay, so we have discussed posture. So, so the next thing we'll do is we'll just discuss the benefits of maintaining good posture. So first things first, if you keep practicing this posture that I've just explained to you, if you keep practicing this good posture that I've explained to you, one of the many benefits is as you get older, I don't like using this example, but it's the best example that I've got. Have you been to the supermarket before and you see those old people that are shuffling around the supermarket with a little walker frame and they're like, right, hunched over like that as they're walking around the supermarket and they can't stand up? That is from years and years and years of letting their posture just lapse and just being lazy or perhaps working too hard and their backs have just worn out like that. But one of the benefits of practicing posture is you'll train your muscles to keep your body in this position. So you won't need to activate it just to publicly speak. It'll always be there for you. So yeah, this posture thing is something that you want to really practice and really get the hang of, because it will have way more benefits for your life than not practicing it will. Okay, so we're going to have a little bit of a practice at this. Just spend a couple of minutes having a practice. So if we want to try this while we're sitting down, that's good as well. The first and the best tip for good posture while sitting down is make sure that your knees are lower than your hips. So, hang on, I'm going to turn sideways on for this. So, if you're sitting in a chair and from your hips down to your knees has a downward angle, that is the best way for you to have good posture when you sit. But if it's the other way around and your knees are held slightly higher than your hips, it's going to be very hard and very uncomfortable to have good posture. So make sure your legs are at least flat, your thighs are at least flat, or preferably on a slightly downward angle. And that will actually relax your hips enough so that you can engage from the stomach. So lifting your chest, sucking your stomach in here. And once we're in this position, we can then finish off the posture with our chin. And then from trying to hold this while I shift position, but from this position here, we can see nice, tall, confident posture. How is my voice funny, Emma? So I just want everybody to give that a try now. So if you're sitting there like that or anything else, now's the time. Sit up, bring your hips to the back of the chair and suck your tummy in, lift your chest. And you should feel your shoulders slightly touching the back of the chair. Then from here, chin. Do your arms or hands have to touch your legs or something? They don't have to, no, because usually if you're going to be giving a speech or you're going to be talking to an audience and you're sitting down, you want to be able to be expressive with your hands. You don't want to just have them on your legs like that, because then it looks very robotic, very boring, and you're relying too much on facial expressions. You're welcome. Okay, so that is going to be a task that I want you to practice. So you've got your tips for your written posture, for your standing posture. I also want you to apply that to your sitting posture as well. So sitting in the chair, slight downward angle to your legs, and just from there, suck tummy in, lift chest and chin here. Because if you can get this, actually, thank you, Kevin. That's very nice. I actually used to be a radio DJ for a little while back when I lived in Western Australia. It was good fun. Feel a noise. So yes, I want you to practice your posture, because starting now, correct, Emma, dance sport. So how do you suck your tummy in? So hang on a second. Okay. So with your muscles, any muscle, it has two possible actions. You can either expand it to make it longer, or you can contract it to make it shorter. Now, just making sure that I leave my shirt down so I'm not showing my belly to a whole bunch of kids in Vietnam. So from here, right now, you can see that my stomach is expanded, so it's relaxed. So what I want to do is I want to imagine like I'm trying to make my belly button meet my spine. So I'm going to contract my stomach muscles, and it's almost kind of like pulling it inwards, making it smaller. And there. So if I do it too much, it feels really tight and I can't talk properly. I struggle to breathe. But that's the general action of it. So I want to take it to that point to get the feeling where it's really tense. But when I'm practicing my posture, I don't want to take it that far, because if it affects my breathing or if it affects my ability to speak, then I'm doing it too much. So yeah, so basically to suck your tummy in, you just want to contract the muscles, make them smaller. So when you're first practicing this and getting used to it, take it too far to that point where you struggle to breathe and struggle to talk, but just practice that motion of contracting your stomach muscles. Then to actually perfect your posture, do that again, but don't take it that far. Keep doing it, but don't get to the point where it gets hard to breathe and hard to talk. I sound like a monster. Okay, so we've talked about good tips for your posture. Hopefully you will practice that, because that will be a very important thing for any speech you have in the future. A horse monster, Luna. Okay. So the next thing we want to talk about is eye contact. And we discussed the main reason for it. So eye contact, let me just find my list of body language facts. So eye contact sorry, I'm just looking for so eye contact is actually a very, 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 very big topic or a big part of body language. So, and it's actually the complete opposite in public speaking than it would be in real life. Luna, I can't sing even when I'm not sounding and looking like a horse monster. So eye contact in real life, if you maintain eye contact with somebody for too long, so if you maintain eye contact with somebody for too long, it can actually subconsciously mean that you're trying to challenge them for authority. So if I was talking to, I suppose the only person currently in class right now who would be my superior is Ms. Duck. But if I was talking to Ms. Duck and I was to maintain eye contact with her for too long, that might signal to her that I'm trying to challenge for authority. Ms. Duck, I swear I never would do that. But it can send that message to Ms. Duck, and that can just lead to all sorts of problems. So if you're talking to somebody, a little bit of eye contact every now and then is good. It shows you're paying attention. It shows that you're listening. But don't maintain it, because like psychopaths and serial killers will just like sit there and stare at you and not move their eyes. Don't do that. It's very, very bad. But it's the complete opposite in public speaking. So if I'm giving a speech to everybody, say you're all sitting in a room and you're all my audience. If I'm giving you a speech and I'm just looking up and, oh yeah, how many flaps does that air conditioner vent have in it? How many lights are in the ceiling? Oh yeah, the air conditioner's over there. That's a pretty painting. You guys are all going to look at me and go, he doesn't give a stuff about what he's saying to us. Why should we listen? But if I'm, again, not making direct eye contact with you, but playing that little trick where it looks like I am. So I'm just looking above the heads of a group of the audience. Each one of the people in that group is going to think I'm making eye contact with them. It's going to give them that little special moment. Oh, he's looking at me. I better listen. So it's actually the complete opposite effect in a public speech than it is just in everyday conversation. So in a big public speech, the appearance of eye contact is actually very important. Because yeah, it can create a connection with members of the audience, and that's what you want. You want them to feel connected to you and what you're saying. Ben, that's so mean. How could you say that? I thought we were friends. Good question. So I just got a message. If a girl looks at a boy for too long, does that mean that she likes him? Most of the time, yes. So again, you don't want to overly engage in eye contact where you're both looking at each other like that. because prolonged eye contact is usually the sign you're talking to a serial killer and you should run away. But if you, I don't know, say for example, you're in math class together and you're in different parts of the room, and just every now and then you kind of just look over at them and you try and sneak a look when they're not looking at you because you just want to look at them and you're just looking at them lots. Yes, that very much can be a sign of attraction that you like somebody. Absolutely. Kevin, good point. Yes, so eye contact, if you're staring at somebody, that can be a challenge to authority. So if you keep looking at somebody and they're way bigger than you and way stronger than you, and you're just staring at them like that, they may feel challenged, and then they're most likely going to try and act up and try and bully you, correct? I do not look like a fat monster. That's horrible. Generally, yeah. Eye contact, like I said before, Emma, is a very, very wide topic of body language. So if you stare at someone or something, yes, it can mean that you like the item or you like the person. It can also, again, be a challenge for authority. It can also mean that you're angry with someone. It can also mean that you are looking at them with reverence, so you really admire them. Like when you go to, for example, when you go to see a concert from your favorite musician and you're staring up at them, you know, like you're not looking at them because you're trying to challenge them for their authority. You're looking at them because you admire them. So there are a lot of other little factors, like the expression on their face. What is their mouth doing? Are their nostrils flaring? Is there something happening with their ears? What's their posture like? You know, like, are they standing there looking big and tough, or are they standing there trying to look small and hide themselves? There are so many interpretations for eye contact. But I'm loving these questions, guys. This is awesome. Okay. So what I would like everybody to do now if I had to guess, Tom, if your teacher was staring at you like you had two heads, chances are you grew a second head and your teacher saw it, but you just didn't realize it. No, so there perhaps could have been something that you were doing that was maybe annoying your teacher. So perhaps you were talking to your friends too much, not realizing that your teacher wanted your attention. So they could have been looking at you like they were annoyed. Or maybe you had just said something so incredibly intelligent that she didn't expect someone as young as yourself to say something like that. She could have been looking at you with shock and awe. There are many reasons why your teacher could have been looking at you like that. Oh, yeah. If you see a bear coming towards you, I don't exactly know what to do, so I wouldn't advise, but don't make eye contact with the bear. Don't make eye contact with the bear. Oh, staring contest. Ruby, yes. We play that game over in Australia as well. We get two friends that'll just like lock eye contact, and we'll do a countdown. And the first person to blink after you say go loses. Yeah, that's a very common game. I'm not very good at it because my eyes get really dry quickly. Emma, what's your question? Yes, you may, Rabbit, if you need to.
What
you may.
is
I mean, what if you made eye contact with a bear when it's running towards you?
That's an even worse idea than just trying to make eye contact with the bear in the first place. That is pretty much just going to assume that the bear eats you up and yeah,
Once in
You'd-
the wild.
yeah. I mean, it's never a
What?
good idea to antagonize
Well,
a bear.
what
but-
then what happens if your teacher keeps staring at you with a suspicious face while you're doing your math?
Well, I suppose the real question there, Emma, would be, what else are you doing that you don't know that he knows that you're doing? So generally, most people, without realizing it, get pretty good at understanding other people's body language. So if your teacher's looking at you suspiciously, then they think you're doing something suspicious. So either cut it out or don't look so suspicious. That's the best advice I can give for you there. Okay, so we're just going to try just for a minute or so. I just want everybody, I'm going to stop the share here. I just want everybody to just make eye contact with the camera. So just, it feels quite awkward, doesn't it, to look at the camera? So I just want you to just look at the camera and just imagine, like, on the other side of that camera is an audience of, say, 1,000 people that you want to make eye contact with. So just look at the camera. No, keep it up. I'm having a look at everybody's. I'm having a look at everybody. So try and take this part seriously. Don't look bored and like actually give this part a proper go. So don't overdo it. It's like don't like stare at the camera like that. But just blink once or twice and just open your eyes naturally. And just from here, just look at the camera. So I'm not doing anything. I'm not trying to widen. I'm not trying to like squint. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just making eye contact with the camera, just with my eyes, just relaxed and normal. I'm not doing anything special other than looking at the camera. Very good. So what you're doing right now, just with a normal relaxed face, just eyes normally. Again, I'm not trying to open them. I'm not trying to squint, I'm not doing anything. My eyes just in their normal relaxed state. I'm just looking in a specific location. And this is all you've got to do when you publicly speak. You've just got to, again, make the audience feel. Yeah, for goodness sake, blink when you need to. Don't try and keep your eyes open permanently. But yeah, just make it look like you're trying to make eye contact with people. And again, just by looking over their head. So imagine these two fingers. This is the direction that your eyes are looking. Don't look at your audience like in the eyes. Like pretty much just look at them above their head here, because they'll be looking up slightly. And when they see you looking in that direction there, like they'll feel it. It's almost like there's an invisible beam of energy that's coming from their eyes in their direction. And they're just going, he's looking at me. I need to pay attention. Like he's speaking to me. Like I feel special. He's speaking to me. And that's all you're trying to do. All right, we can relax now. But very good. So again, just make sure that your eyes are nice and relaxed. Don't try and squint, nothing, just relaxed. And yeah, so pretty much with your eyes, just imagine like you're talking to one person. You're making eye contact every so often. But in a speech, you do it more often. And yeah, there's nothing special to it. Ben, I would like to hope that's not how you'd make eye contact in a speech. Bruh, I made Lewis scared. What if when the speaker is giving eye contact to someone and the speaker was saying something that some people do? Well, that depends on the specific speaker. So if the speaker is passive aggressive, which means they're not going to confront somebody directly. So let's just say, because Michael's my favorite little terrorist, let's say that Michael did something that annoyed me. So if I was passive aggressive, I wouldn't just walk up to Michael and say, Michael, this is what you've done. It annoys me because of this reason. When you're in my class, I would appreciate it if you would stop that behavior. So that's being direct. That's good. That's what you want to do. If I was passive aggressive, I wouldn't do that. So I would be the type to put it in my speech. And then at the moment that says that some people are doing this, I'd look directly at Michael when I said that bit as if I was saying, yeah, you know what you did, boy. So that's passive aggressive. So if you're dealing with a teacher that is passive aggressive, then yeah, when they do that, they're probably indirectly saying, this is what you've done and it's annoying me. But if they're the type of teacher that would just tell you off and say, this is what you've done wrong, this is why it annoys me, please don't do it anymore, then they probably just happened to be looking at you when they delivered that particular line in the speech. Correct. We would want to address someone politely if they are displaying some less than favorable behavior. We would want to approach them directly and say, excuse me, this behavior annoys me. This is the reason it annoys me. When you're in my class, don't do this anymore. Correct. Very good. It's always best to address your problems head on. Okay, so now we've stared at the screen like a class full of serial killers. Amazing. We're going to move into the final topic for our class tonight. Okay. So the art of hand gestures. So I've got a few hand gestures to show you and explain their meanings and their uses in a speech. I've got my list here. So first of all, what I'd like to introduce to you is the fact that when it comes to hand gestures, there is a spectrum of hand gestures, and they can go all the way from being really stiff, like where I'm just trying to give you a talk. Hang on. I'm trying to give you a talk and I'm just sitting there like that. I'm very stiff here. I'm not expressive. It's just here. I look grumpy. I look like you've all made me grumpy for no reason. Then you can go way too high with your expressions. That's where you're doing things like up here and giving jazz hands and all this sort of stuff. It's too much. It's too much for a speech. But if you're using your hands and you're using them in specific ways to explain things while you're talking, that's good, just as long as you're not going crazy up here. So the first hand gesture that I want to introduce you to, and again, I'm going to give you some basics and it'll be up to you guys to research, study, and learn more about this stuff. So the first one is called listing. And that's where I use my fingers if I am listing things off. So, for example, if I was listing things I found in my fridge, I could say, well, some of the things I found in my fridge, I had eggs, I had cheese, I had milk, had tomatoes, And that can be a very effective gesture. It can be a very effective gesture to help the audience remember what you were talking about. Because if I'm just not using my hands, like, oh, there was milk, there was eggs, there was cheese, there was bread, there was tomatoes, there was this. It doesn't, there's nothing visual to help your audience remember what you're talking about. So by saying, you can either tap the fingers and raise another one, or you can list them up here as you're going on. It just gives the audience something visual to remember, help them remember what you were talking about. So that can be a very good. So yeah, it can be a very good reminder. That's the word I'm looking for. The next hand gesture I'd like to introduce you to, it's called a tiny bit. And that's where you've just tiny bit. So you just keep your fingers, your pointer finger and your thumb just close together. And again, it's just a great visual, what we call an anchor, something that we drop into the conversation that helps the listener to, it just gives them another way to take that information in. So they hear it and they also see it. So by doing gestures like that, it just helps them remember your points a little bit better. Another great gesture, and this one is, so this one's called listen up. And we're going to have both of our hands flat. We pick, one is straight down and the other one on top like that. So listen up, everybody, listen up. It's time to pay attention. And this, so both hands are flat like that. So I'm putting one flat hand on top of the other. And the way I would do it, hang on, let me stand up to show you. So I was talking, giving a speech, and I noticed that people were starting to lose interest a bit, or I was just about to get to a really important bit. I go, all right, listen up, everybody, pay attention to what I'm saying. And that's called the listen up. And it's great because it's a very effective hand gesture for it. It kind of jars people and they go, oh, I've got to listen to this. That sounds important. And the good thing is, well, the good thing about learning this stuff is it helps you to understand people better, because a lot of their responses to these hand gestures and this body language stuff, it's all based off of millions and millions and millions of years of human evolution. Like, there's a reason why we respond to these things in these ways, because in the past, if we did respond to them, we survived. If we didn't respond to them, we might have been taken out by a predator or something. So it's kind of been ingrained in us to respond to all of these gestures like this. And if you can understand it, you're one step closer to hacking human beings. The next one is a clenched fist. So we can use this one in a couple of ways. So a clenched fist like that. So if we were to throw it up in the air and go, yes, that can be like a celebration, something good. Yeah, like, yes, we did it. Or the other way, similar to the listen up, if something bad's happened, we can kind of punch our other hand, like hammer fist our other hand, go, it's no good. And that can emphasize and demonstrate frustration. Exactly, Tim. Booyah. Okay, so the next gesture. So the next gesture has two meanings. Now, the first meaning is if we're talking about everything. So if I'm talking about a topic, or if I'm talking about a group of people and I want a gesture that lets everyone know that I am talking about every single person in that group, no one is left out, I can use this sweeping motion. It's called everything. So I go from one side and I go like that, from side to side, talking about everyone. I'm talking about everything. So that can be a good gesture to emphasize everyone or everything in a group. And the other reason is if I don't know, I'm just going to pick on Michael again. Let's say that Michael made a mistake and I was quite upset about it for a while, but then I got over it. And I decided I'm going to give Michael a clean slate. I'm going to treat him as if this thing never happened. I can wipe the slate clean and let him know everything is good again. We're starting again from scratch. So we've got a couple of uses for that gesture there. The next one, I'll give you two more for now. The next one is sizing. So this again is a great visual aid to help your audience remember your points. And it's whether you're talking about is something small, medium, or large. So generally, there's no real set thing for it. It's kind of obvious after a while, but what I generally tend to do is I go to my chin, my nose, and above my head. So if my chin is small, my nose is medium, above my head is large. So if I'm talking about, I don't know, like the size of a box or the size of something that just a little bit's not quite, it's too much for a little bit. I can say, oh, it's quite small. Usually if I'm talking about someone's height, yeah, he was quite short. Oh, he was tall. Oh, he was about medium height. So those are just some little gestures there that you can use. No, Michael, I'd be very grateful if you sent that bomb to the wrong location, then it'd stay away from my house. And the last gesture. So in a one-on-one conversation, probably wouldn't use this one too much. It's called the let me tell you, and it's basically like shaking your hand at someone. So let me tell you. So if I'm just talking to one person, it can be quite a, what's the word I'm looking for? It can be quite an aggressive gesture. So like, listen here, like you don't do that. It's almost like I'm telling you off. And in a one-on-one conversation, not a lot of people are going to appreciate that. But if I'm doing it to a group of people, I can use it to emphasize the importance of a point. So if I'm running, I don't know, let's just say that I'm running for the mayor of Melbourne. I don't know, first example I thought of. And I'm giving a speech and I'm talking about something that I'm going to be serious about. So let's say that I want to be very tough on crime. During my speech, I might go, and I'm going to be tough on crime. I'm going to be tough on criminals. You see how that gesture there, like that almost aggression of it, adds that level of I'm being serious about this issue. So we see there that with all of these examples, there are many, many different ways that we can enhance our speech by using hand gestures. So Tina would just punch the platform that her paper's on. Hopefully you do a hammer fist and not one of them, because you could hurt yourself if you punched it with your knuckles. You want to do a hammer fist because there's a lot of meat there and it still makes a loud noise and you can make a big point. But I like how you think, Tina. Okay, so let's cap off with all the things that we've learned this evening. So we went through a bit of the basics of what your body language tells your audience. We went through some good points for posture. So please go back into the chat now and grab those tips for your good posture. We talked about, I answered a lot of questions about what different parts of body language mean, from blinking to coughing to filler noises, the ums, the ahs, the coughs. We also discussed things like eye contact, what playing with your hair can mean in your speeches. So yeah, and that's really, we're just kind of scraping the surface of what body language can do for you. Number one, by learning body language, you learn how to be confident, how to be assertive. You can also learn you can pretty much become a psychic if you study body language, because people's body language always betrays them. So if they're trying to lie to you or trying to not tell you the truth about something, if you study body language, people have these things called micro expressions, and that's little bits of body language that pop up and they can't control it. Like it's not something they do deliberately, it always betrays them. So if you really want to almost be like a psychic and look like you can read people's minds, get good at body language and you can learn to read people. You'll be able to tell when they're lying, when they're really happy, when they're really sad, when they're really angry. And yeah, and it'll trip them out because you'll be able to tell things that they don't even know because these like micro expressions. It's brilliant. Yeah, work on your posture as well. So again, I say by working on your posture, like you will look more confident, you'll walk more confident, and people will just look at you with awe, and it'll almost give you a sense of authority that you didn't even know you had. So yeah, really practice this posture stuff, guys. Like it'll help you out in more ways than even I can tell you right now. And then we also talked about hand expressions too. So hand gestures. So we talked about little tips to help people remember what we're talking about, from listing to sizing. We talked about strong gestures like the let me tell you, all sorts of these different things. There are many, many gestures we can learn, and they can all have okay. So yeah, there are lots of different aspects to body language. And it's actually only been really recently with some of the Americans that it's really become an actually applicable almost science. Okay, so in future, this is just a little reminder, whenever you record a video for your homework, I want you to start practicing your posture, and I want you to start practicing your hand gestures, trying to do things with your hands. And when I say that, excuse me, I don't just mean wing it. So don't just start giving your speech and then go, oh, well, so I think to do with this and something. Like actually plan this stuff out, because that, like every speech we've watched so far in class, all of their hand gestures, all of their body language, like they rehearse this stuff for hours and hours to get this stuff perfect. And so I'm not saying do it like that. Like I'm not saying put in hours and hours and hours and hours, but just start practicing this stuff so that you get more familiar with it. And you can start to include it in your videos that you post for us each week. And so, yeah, actually a really good point here is practice gestures that complement the words. So if you're talking about something that involves talking about the size of different objects, you know, practice using the, oh yeah, it was only small, or oh, it was about medium or average size. Oh, it was so big. Try things like that. If you're talking about a serious topic, then perhaps try the let me tell you. So start practicing all this sort of stuff. And eventually it'll just become a habit for you, and you won't even have to think about it soon. Okay, so we're not going to have time tonight to watch any video clips or analyze gestures. So I will get you guys to deliver. I'll get you guys to watch a speech for your home in your homework this week, and analyze the body language and the hand gestures and sorts in that. So we've discussed the importance of these hand gestures and this body language. Thank you, Tina. We're nearly finished. So, but yeah, so hand gestures, body language, it's all very important, because if you're not practicing this stuff for your speeches, then your body may betray you during your speech. You may have a facial expression like a little tick or something, some part of your posture You know, you may be trying to act confident, but let's say you haven't picked your chest up and you're sitting there delivering a speech like this, or hunched forward, and people are going to go, oh, he doesn't look very confident. So make sure you practice this stuff, from your hand gestures to your facial expressions to your body language itself, your posture. So practice, practice, practice. Actually, an interesting factoid that I once learned. Yeah, I'm going to post your homework on Zalo, guys, don't worry. So an interesting little factoid I learned, in that apparently the words that somebody say, I think that's only some ridiculously small amount of the overall message that the listener receives. So I think it's something ridiculous, like somewhere between 8 to 12% of the overall message is delivered through what the person actually says. The other 88 to 92% of the message is all received through body language, facial gestures, hand gestures, how they say it. So are their pitch going up? Is their pitch going down? Are they talking really fast? Are they talking slow? So all these other details make up by far the vast majority of the message that a person receives. So like this stuff is very important for your communication skills. Okay, so I'll give you more details in the Zalo group for your homework for this week. But your task is basically going to be to write a reflection on the impact of body language in communication. And I'll also encourage you to share your personal experiences and observations with body language. So next lesson, we're going to be working on vocal modulation in public speaking. So again, that's going to be things like the volume of your voice, the pitch of your voice, the speed you talk at, and just all these little tips and all these little helpful things that are going to help you deliver the speech a lot more confidently. So yes, thank you very much, everybody, for staying with me this long. You've done terrific tonight. It was quite a complex topic we discussed. So yeah, I'll let you guys get on with your evenings. And I'll post your homework in the Zalo group. Of course, it'll be due before 6:45 next Sunday. So see you all, guys. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you all next week. Good night.
Bye, teacher.
Goodbye, teacher.
Goodbye, teacher.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye, teacher.
26 in Melbourne.
Bye, teacher.
Good night.
Bye. Make sure you do homework.
Yeah, guys, do the homework task. I'll post it in the Zalo group.
Bye.
Good
Where's
night.
the homework
Bye.
post? Next week.
Goodbye, see you later next week.
Bye-bye.
Teacher,
Bye
thanks.
bye.
Bye, teacher.
Let's do
Bye, Miss Doug.
something
Bye, Miss Doug.
I want to play. Bye, everyone. Come on, leave. So, we are the last people, no, not. There are. Bye.
Okay. Bye bye. Cô em nhé.
Bye. Bye.